I think 2002 I started actually being sponsored by them. I wasn't sponsored by anyone until like 2002, 2003, and that was when I won those like world championships. I don't think a lot of people really took me seriously at the beginning of my career. They were like, you're just this kid, you know, I was known down here, but I never was really that kid that wanted to go and film, and I didn't think it was that cool, you know. I was like, well, you go and film, and you got this film guy following you around, and then you're paying for all your fuel, and this guy's selling a DVD, and he doesn't even want to pay you to go film. So I never really wanted to go film, and so I really wasn't known in any of the movies. I think my occasional crash made it in movies, and I really hadn't done anything. I was just locally in that West Yellowstone contest and demos, you know. So 2002, 2003, the guys at Fly started noticing me. They're like, cool, you're from right here. You're winning every single one of these events that we're sponsoring anyway, because I think they had sponsored that tour. And then I left for a while. Had some good deals with some other companies, but I think I was only gone for like 2 or 3 years. And then Richard, like I said, really good friend of mine. I worked at the Yamaha shop in town. He worked at the Kawasaki shop in town, and we'd go to lunch together all the time. We were friends. He ended up getting the job here. So, and he was the parts manager there, and that's where my dad would buy everything all for our farm, four-wheeler wise. So Richard and I talked to each other nonstop. It wasn't that we'd worked across the street. It was that every time I'd go buy a part for the four-wheelers for the farm, because my dad has 4 Polaris four-wheelers there from Grizzlies there in town. He was the guy, you know, Richard. So he didn't have to twist my arm too hard to get me to ride for him, because he was a good friend, and I wanted to work with somebody that I liked, you know. And I think that had to have been like 06. Yeah, 2006. I think I was gone for like 2 or 3 years, and then Richard got the job like in 06 or something like that, and I've been there ever since. My favorite moments from X Games are definitely the front flip. I'll never forget that moment. I'll never forget like all the crazy work that Parsons and I put into it, like just finally completing it. And it wasn't like I won. I could have gave a shit less if I won. It was the fact that, okay, it's over with. I've lifted this off my chest. I don't have to worry about ever doing this again. I just wanted to be the dude to do it first, you know. I barely missed the boat to flip a snowmobile first, and I was like, I'm not going to be the person that does this second. And I know for a fact that there's people out there that want this just as much as I do, so I'm going to be that guy. So that was definitely my greatest moment. And then second greatest moment was the first time that I won X Games was the KOD Indy Flip. And I just remember that whole winter that was the year I almost died in the Red Bull foam pit when it burnt down. And it was just a heck of a winter, and I turned it around and won. Yeah. And it was your first win. You can't deny that. Yeah, this year at Winter X Games 15, pretty sweet. I made a deal with the Layton guys. Their main sponsor is Fly Racing. One of my main sponsors is Fly Racing. So I really didn't have to move too many other logos around. I wasn't concerned. I'm free agent this year. I'm not riding for anyone as far as manufacturer standpoint. I knew that the Layton guys had a motor package that was elite as far as the guys that build their motors. Bender. I've been around the scene forever. I don't have to ride your snowmobile to tell you if it's fast. All I have to do is listen to it, and I can pretty much tell you it's the best one out there. And for years I'd watched Levi, and they have the same motor package, watched his stuff, and you know, you just listen to them, and you know from being around everything that their motors are just insane. So I called up Trace, and Trace and I worked something out that would work for both of us for X Games, and those guys took really good care of me. Robbie Molinowski, a longtime friend of mine and my brother's, it was the crew chief, so even frickin' more cool. I get to work with a longtime friend of mine that, you know, ex-snowcrosser, which is always the best when that's a crew chief, because you have a guy that actually has been out there on the track and knows how to ride it. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with mechanics or crew chiefs that don't ride, but there's a big difference between what works on paper or whatever than what a guy that's been out there a million times and has seen what the changes need to be. And him and the guys that work there just made that snowmobile so fast. And it wasn't that we won just because we had a good motor. I mean, they had the suspension set up so amazing. I think we changed the suspension during our testing like 5 different or 6 different times, trying to see what settings I liked best. And we had a guy up on the landing watching where I was landing, like, okay, well, this is a really good spot right here. And we were basically trying to find that line where I could still steer it off the start, but we wanted to get as much traction as we could. And when you get traction, you're squatting it back, you're picking up the skis, so then you can't steer. So we just found that perfect line where I could still steer it, but still get really good traction, and then just had a banging motor. Kept her pinned, never let off. Tucked it up into my body, and I tried to stay low. The guys that were there were like, well, Levi does it like this, and I'm like, you know, just because he's won this thing a million times doesn't really mean that he's the best at it. I'm like, the way he does it and the way I think it should be done are 2 different things. So I used the approach where I wasn't wheeling through the air, because they think that when they wheelie like that, they're gliding. And I think that when you fly through the air, if you want to get your entire lift and everything, that you're smooth. You're like a rocket. Yeah. Stay tucked down, stay close to the sled, rip your visor off, you don't need that. And yeah, I didn't beat his record, but his record was on the first year that they did that event, and it was a flat ground. But this year for TV, they wanted to elevate the entire thing to make it look bigger. And it was an uphill run-in, so it takes a lot more speed going uphill, it takes a lot more power, and I think I was like 4 or 5 inches or something off his mark or something. But I also took my hand off in the air because I saw the Corey Davis's bomb hole where they broom it, because every time we jumped, they'd sweep the last guy's track so they could tell exactly, and I was 10 feet in the air when I went over his track, so I knew I won. If I probably would have stayed tucked, I probably would have beat his record, but I don't care about the record. I was just there to do good. Yeah. Won. Good enough.
Number 10?
Number 10. Yeah. That was my only concern, was the number 10. It wasn't what color it was. It wasn't in which event it was. It was just go there and win number 10.